Was signed out of a national tournament in Canada. I'm from Saskatchewan, and the Astros signed me. I ended up in '73 I signed, and then '74 was my first full season. I went to the Appalachian League Rookie League, and then '75 was A-ball, Dubuque Packers. The following year I was sent to Columbus, Georgia. That's AA. And then I was only there a month and got sent to AAA, which was Memphis, Tennessee. And then the following year, we moved our AAA affiliate from Memphis to Charleston, West Virginia. And I started there, and about mid-season I was promoted to the Astros. And then I played 14 years with Houston, and my last year was with Kansas City Royals. One thing I did find out that was very interesting later on was there was a very famous restaurant there called Timmerman's, and I came to Houston here. I was here a couple of years already, and I was at a golf tournament, and I was watching this guy hit golf balls, and I introduced myself, and I said, "You got a nice, you swing really well," and we talked about things. Well, we later became friends, and he said, and I was mentioned that because his family's from Galena Park, Galena,
yep.
Galena, yes, and I said, well, yeah, I remember in Dubuque that there was a restaurant, a really good restaurant there. I said none of us could afford to go eat there. It was Timmerman's, and he says, I own that. So, he bought it from somebody, but he didn't own it at the time when I was there. But it was like, wow, that was kind of surprising. And we're still friends. Playing in Dubuque, first of all, it was cold at the beginning of the season, and secondly, I remember a lot of the road trips that we would, some significant bus rides. I remember seeing a lot of cornfields. That's one thing. Even got to understand how to say it in Spanish, because we had a lot of Spanish players on our team. Well, in the minor league system with the Astros, Tom Dixon was somebody who played briefly. That's a good question. Louis Pujols was, in fact, I think Louis was at Dubuque with me. Boy, I've never really thought about that. To go through all the different players. There was when we were in Rookie League, the manager brought us all to the home plate area, and he said that you can look at all the, there's about 35 of us, and he says, look at everybody. He says, one of you will make it to the big leagues. And I think Louis Pujols and I were both there, and so he was wrong. There was two of us that made it. I've managed mostly from at the college level, but I did manage the Canadian Olympic team, and we went to Beijing, and that took me to a lot of different countries. We had to do some qualifying rounds. We went to Cuba. We went to Australia twice, went to Taiwan twice, so we got a lot of traveling from that standpoint too.
What was it like to walk onto the field at the Astrodome for the first time?
Well, I remember driving into Houston, and I came in during the evening, and the Astrodome was all lit up, and I went, wow, I'm going to be playing in that place the next night. And the first game that I played there was against the Dodgers, and had 44,000 people at the game, and I'd never played in front of a crowd more than 4,000, and so it was a big change from that standpoint. You have to maintain efficient mechanics in baseball. It's a skill sport. If you don't belong there, you'll get exposed. You don't stay there because you're lucky. You got to be good. Well, I was a left-handed hitter, so I had often trouble with the premier left-handed pitchers, which would have been at that time Steve Carlton, John Candelaria with Pittsburgh. I remember Soto, right-hander for the Cincinnati Reds, had a wonderful changeup. Bruce Sutter, when he first came up, it was one of the first to throw the split finger, so that was a difficult pitch. I think it's the biggest one is don't get up with all your wins, and don't get too far down when you get beat up in your failures. There's never been a player ever that hasn't experienced, bad times in the game, because the game is that difficult. And says you have to expect that, but then you also have to be able to pick yourself up and go back out there and do it again and rely on your talent and your confidence and all those type of things. Baseball is a beautiful sport because it allows you to forget about things rather quickly, because if I had a bad day today, I'm going to play again tomorrow. And you know what? I might have a good day tomorrow and I've already forgotten about the other one. So you got to have a very short memory.
I've heard players today in interviews talk about like that 24-hour rule. If you win, you enjoy it for a day and then you move on to the next game.
Yeah. You need to enjoy your spoils a little bit, because and enjoy it with people that are close to you. That's another thing. My wife Jackie's been a big part of my career. I was second in hitting. In the last week of hitting, Pedro Guerrero, who ended up being a Dodger at that time, he and I went. So Pedro was there, Willie Wilson was there. So there were some players there at that time. Pete and I were involved in a last week of the season for the batting title, and I had a great last week, and we were almost even with a week left, and he beat me by 10 percentage points, and I went, man, he must have just gotten hits all the time. Well, you always had East Dubuque. That was one team rule that we had. When Bob Cluck stood up there at the beginning and said, by the way, East Dubuque is off limits. Well, of course, everybody was looking around going like, well, then we all have to go there. Because why would it be off limits?